And President Trump making his major Ukraine-Russia announcement, unveiling a NATO weapons deal without U.S. funding, saying we'll be sending weapons, but they're going to be paying. The U.S. will not be making any further payments. Also giving Vladimir Putin 50 days. You have 50 days, Vladimir, to come to your senses or all heck breaks loose. We'll show you that. Also, the auto pen scandal ramping up. The DOJ is investigating this. You won't believe what they had Joe Biden do yesterday. Just unbelievable. And more stories as well from around the country, including a major update about Epstein from Ghislaine Maxwell herself.
In a nutshell, we're going to make top-of-the-line weapons, and they'll be sent to NATO. NATO may choose to have certain of them sent to other countries where we can get a little additional speed, where the country will release something and it'll be mostly in the form of a replacement. And I'd like to have Mark, and again, just a highly respected, pretty young guy for having had the career that he's had, because he had an amazing career before going to NATO.
So President Trump making the major Russia announcement this morning while meeting with NATO chief Mark Rutte in the Oval Office, announcing weapon shipments to Ukraine will continue, but via a NATO weapons deal they just signed. No U.S. funding. Instead, U.S. defense contractors will manufacture the weapons and sell them directly to NATO. NATO will then either sell them or gift them to Ukraine. This was teased for days as a major announcement on Ukraine-Russia. If this is it, then it's much better than what we were hearing yesterday. Senator Lindsey Graham hinted to stay tuned for Trump's announcement this morning that we may see Trump sign off on using Russia's $300 billion in seized assets that are just sitting in dollars. Use that money, he said, to pay for Ukraine's defense, which would have been a terrible decision. Once again, though, Lindsey Graham was wrong. Likewise, Axios yesterday reporting that this new weapons package included long-range missiles capable of attacking deep inside Russia, to include Moscow, they said. Instead, what happened? Trump announces this NATO deal, which includes mostly defensive weapons, and gives Putin his final warning. Trump saying, Russia, you have 50 days to come to your senses. If no peace deal is reached in 50 days, we'll be rolling out a sanctions package unlike anyone's ever seen. Watch.
And one of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine, and would like to see it end. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin, because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it.
So look, we know Trump wants to end this war. It's been over 3 years and 4 months to be exact, since Russia invaded Ukraine. 3 years and over $300 billion in U.S. tax dollars spent, and almost 500,000 people dead because of this war. That's the official estimate. It stands around 500,000 people. That's military personnel and civilians combined. And Trump wants to just walk away. He said that numerous times. He campaigned on ending this war, but this isn't your typical conflict. So many interests are at play, and he is being pressured from all sides to keep it going. We even saw this last week. Trump was still deciding if he'd greenlight more U.S. weapons to Ukraine. Watch his CIA director's face. Watch John Radcliffe here, and we like John Radcliffe, but he's the CIA director now. He's in it. And his face says it all, smirking and exhaling in relief. A giant sigh of relief comes over his face as Trump goes along with the plan. Roll the tape.
Are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Clearly, Trump's of the mindset now that the best way to get Putin back to the table is to follow the Biden administration policy, continue helping Ukraine fight off Russia. The only difference, a big difference, is that NATO will be picking up the tab. Let me know if you think that's good enough, if you think this policy will work, or if you think this will just prolong the war. Will we be here in 4 more years at the end of the Trump administration? Will we still be sending weapons to Ukraine, fighting this war? Let me know your thoughts. In another story, the Trump DOJ is now ramping up their Biden auto pen investigation. This is a real criminal investigation, and we're hearing the FBI has begun conducting interviews with former top Biden officials. They've learned who was controlling the auto pen, how much, if any, knowledge Joe Biden had of the laws and orders, executive orders, pardons that they were signing on his behalf. And this morning, Trump being asked about this and confirming this is, in fact, one of the biggest political scandals that we've had in the last 100 years. Watch.
Look, the auto pen, I think, is maybe one of the biggest scandals that we've had in 50 to 100 years. This is a tremendous scandal. And I know the people on the other side of the, see that desk, that Resolute desk? Unfortunately, he used it before me. But, you know, we have our choice of 7 desks. They're all beautiful. But I chose the Resolute, and so did he, unfortunately. But the people on the other side of the Resolute desk, I know them. Lisa, the whole group, and they're no good. They're sick people. And I guarantee he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it.
And we know they're getting nervous. These Biden handlers getting very nervous. We know that because yesterday they wheeled former President Biden out to put him on the record one last time before it's too late. Joe Biden is not a healthy man. He's got stage 4 cancer. He's dying. He's very, very ill. You don't force an old man who's fighting for his life to do an interview with the New York Times for elucidation purposes. That's the last thing on Biden's mind. It's shameful, but they did. That's how evil these people are. Look at this. The New York Times reporting Biden saying he made the clemency decisions that were recorded with AutoPen. This is according to the New York Times. In this interview, they say Mr. Biden said that he had orally granted all the pardons and commutations issued at the end of his term, calling President Trump and other Republicans liars, they say, for claiming his aides had used an auto pen to do so without his authorization. I made every decision, Mr. Biden said in a phone interview. The interview was Mr. Biden's first about the parallel investigations that begun by the Trump White House, the Justice Department, and Congress into a series of clemency decisions made by Mr. Biden in his final weeks in office and his mental acuity during his term. This is so shameful, folks. They forced Joe Biden, again, who's on his deathbed, to say this on the record so during a trial they can use this as disculpatory evidence. That's what this is. I don't think it's going to work, though. Apparently, there's a ton of evidence that shows Biden had no clue, specifically about the pardons for Anthony Fauci and Adam Schiff, that 5 days went by without him even knowing that Fauci and Schiff were already pardoned.